Good evening, welcome to SHOWstudio. Tonight we're going to be discussing the Cottweiler presentation for Autumn-Winter 15. We have an esteemed panel. Matt, if you'd like to begin the intros.
I'm Matt Williams, I'm the curator at the Institute of Contemporary Arts London.
Alban?
I'm Alban Adam, I'm a Northern Manager PR for Diesel.
I'm Tim Neugebauer and I'm the online fashion director of Tish magazine.
Thank you. Oh, and I'm Daryoush, I work at Complex in the UK. So Matt, I thought it'd be great to begin with you because last season you hosted Cottweiler's show. How did that, why did you want that to happen?
Yeah, I've been working with NTS Radio for the past 12 months. They're our associate artists in residence. So it's working with NTS and we've been programming. They didn't want to do just straightforward gigs and they wanted to try and reinvent the kind of how you engage with music or how the kind of the scenery that you build around a live performance. And then also they were talking to the Cottweiler guys and then it seemed to come naturally because they wanted to kind of stage the show at the ICA and then we talked about a million different possibilities and they came up with a very strong proposal for the presentation, and so we had FK Twigs and someone else, I can't remember now, doing the music. That's it, yeah. And it was a kind of big stage set up where we kind of, built these kind of giant white steps, and had this massive projection by Daniel Swan, and he kind of choreographed the film to kind of tie in with the music, and then also with the kind of the guys who are all kind of street cast to come on. So it was just something different for the ICA to do because obviously we've got a history of working not only just with the visual arts but also with music, with fashion and with cinema. So for us it was a good opportunity to work with a young brand because obviously we're interested in kind of developing and enabling younger startup companies, or startup brands to kind of have access to a wider audience. So for us it was a no-brainer really.
Nice.
Yeah.
And so Tim, you've modelled for them.
Yeah, the past season.
Yeah. How was that? What was unique and wonderful about them?
I just think they're 100% about their vision, and it's something that you hardly find in fashion. Someone being so about what they're doing and really identifying with artwork, and it's so unique as well.
And Alban, we were talking just a second ago about some of the slight backlash against yet another London streetwear label, and I was wondering whether you thought that was fair criticism. Obviously I think it's incredibly unfair, but I was just wondering as an outsider.
No, I'm thinking about, I understand also the way some people are just like, oh okay, it's going to be this street thing. Maybe they don't look closely enough. I don't know, it's a bit easy. Maybe you have to think also, do we want only the 3-piece Savile Row suit? Is the other solution only sportswear, streetwear? There seems to be not many in between. Maybe those guys I think are doing more in between than we think. I don't know.
Well, Ben worked in Savile Row, so he has that background. And yeah, what was your impression of the clothes?
Well, for me, I have a kind of some understanding of fashion, but what I realised that very much it was kind of concept led, and they were very much looking at kind of the identity of who the figure was or who the individual was that they wanted to wear these clothes, or how the whole kind of the sensibility of the presentation, that it was not just trying to be strictly about the clothes, it was trying to be about the environment that's built around the clothes or what informs it. So that came through, yeah, sorry.
Did that excite you? Because the concept was quite intense last time, and does that as somebody that obviously must be quite deep in the art game if you're curating at ICA?
Yeah.
Does that excite you? Did you feel like you got more sort of artistic intent from them than you do when you go shopping?
Yeah, for sure. There's always that danger, isn't it, when a designer wants to be an artist or an artist wants to be a designer or whatever, and they don't actually recognise their own strengths. But it felt quite fluid and natural with them. They seemed to understand that how they wanted to pull together the collection was, or how they wanted to present themselves as an identity, or felt quite, in tune with what they were trying to achieve around it, and it kind of felt like that it was had a sensitivity to their peer group and to where they come from or where they live right now, or where they kind of party or whatever, and it just felt genuine, to be honest. And I mean, conceptually, it is, if you really want to get into kind of conceptual rigor, then it's not the most in depth, but they're still touching upon subjects that are prevalent, right now. So the press release, for example, touches upon the post-human, which is a theme that seems to be prevalent right now, certainly within this relationship between technology and human interaction, and how the internet, etc., and Macs and or the like are all an extension of ourselves. So I mean, I think that fits, in this idea of materiality and production. So I think it's strong, and it's certainly something that feels current. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. And what about the? I mean, I know you have lots of events at the ICA, but what about the sort of energy of something as superficial as fashion? What about that energy compared to the art energy? Do you
well,
like it?
I wouldn't argue. I wouldn't say that fashion's superficial either. I mean, fashion operates on a certain level, and we operate in a world where we do judge a book by its cover quite often. But but I personally enjoy the energy of fashion. I live with someone that works in it, so it's something that I'm quite comfortable with, and I think I enjoy the energy that comes with fashion shows or music shows, and with art, I think with every bit of culture there's a different speed that you can engage with something, and some things operate differently than others on different occasions. So I think to be honest, I admired their ambition for trying to put together something that you would or could see as a permanent install, in an exhibition for over a 2-3 month period of time, and to make that, try and kind of condense that energy into one showing, I thought was really was quite inspired.
Do you think that art people are looking down at those fashion events?
No, I mean, I think you can, I think fashion's got such a kind of influence upon the art world now, and vice versa, and I think it always has. It's just whether people are honest to speak about this or not. I think, I don't think you can, kind of create hierarchies as such for the sake of hierarchies, but sometimes they do exist, of course, But, I genuinely like fashion. I just can't afford the high-end stuff. So, working as a curator, see that's the difference.
Of course.
Yeah.
Were there things, do you find things that are resonant in like you said, the post-human, so you find that resonant? I mean, do things like, sort of obviously last season was so much about white. Do those things, are they reflected in art?
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, people, just what I'm saying, the kind of barriers between, kind of different practices, kind of between music, between, fashion, between, what is the visual arts as such, or video. I mean, I think they're far more fluid than they've ever been, and that's because, everything is far more accessible. I meant to say it again, the internet, but there is that fluidity because technology enables. And now you can make an iMovie or use these different kind of products and make and generate stuff at home far more easily than what you could do in the past. So they've become almost like cottage industries. So whereas you would have someone maybe sewing, now they can just do that via a mouse or something like that. Whatever they need to do, whatever that tool that's available now. So that kind of that gap between making, doing, and circulating is. It's been diminished over time.
I think that's interesting because, last season when we did the review, it was just before I saw the Thanks to Tim, the Health Book Goth Facebook page. Right. And now, and we had lots of people declaring that Health Goth was always a joke, it's not a trend. Yeah. But I mean, the word punk was a joke.
Yeah.
All kind of, portmanteaus are jokes essentially, all it's witticisms, but I thought that was interesting because when Matt was challenging me on why Cottweiler was interesting, Matt last time, who shares your name, and I was kind of trying to describe Health Goth without knowing about Health Goth, and that was it's interesting because that's a kind of homemade trend that people have just made out of pictures at home that they've just photoshopped, but really it's art. It's almost like the art existed before the fashion, and the fashion, I mean, obviously.
Yeah, because then it created those pieces to match that concept that appears out of Tumblr nowhere. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's really strange.
I think it was rather an aesthetic than a particular kind of art that initiated health goth. An aesthetic that was there before, but not like.
But are we going to have a health goth section at Selfridges? So I don't know. Maybe. Why not?
That would be quite funny.
maybe you should do that.
Maybe, it would be quite funny. I can tell Harvey Nichols. Hey, no, I think we missed that point though, didn't we? Because the page they got rung up by they put the emails online of Adidas and Nike asking them about it. But I thought that was interesting in that. I mean, obviously, Cottweiler have actually been around for 5 years, I think, maybe. But it was interesting that there was this trend, and they're really important to that. And yeah, I mean, how do you conceptualize? Like, how does Cottweiler fit into your world, Tim?
Into my world.
Yeah. Like, why do you like it?
I think it's just taking a particular taste beyond its boundaries. The first thing I thought of when I saw like the work of Ben and Matt was like I completely associated with like Skellies and that sort of thing. Basically a fetish, but it goes way beyond that to me because they also at this kind of very futuristic, technical level to the whole thing. They're very savvy of they're very capable of what they're doing, and it's just this incredible eye for detail that they have.
Alban, you're somebody that buys clothes and that's been around a lot of fashion, but you like it, and
yeah, I mean, it's there is this Scally Ladzy fetish thing going on, but I think you can, if you look a bit closer and push it a bit further, it's all about the technicity of it, no? The materials, the way it's put together. It's such a precision behind that. So maybe it starts from there, but then maybe it's actually a fetish when you go so precisely into it. Maybe that's
I think they remove it from the fetish even.
Yeah, it's outside of it now. Because
becomes
it's very
a new thing
precise,
entirely.
no? I think they're very, very precise.
Well, they talk about fetish a lot. I mean, they talk about all the things that designers generally are into, like technical. Like yesterday I went there and they were talking about chemical protection clothes, like hazmat suits, and I've forgotten the name of the people that made it, but they had like chemical shoes, like these huge boots that you like stick your foot in.
Sure, well, it's for those emergency situations when there's contagious disease or that kind of thing?
Yeah. Well, chemicals more for chemical manufacture.
Oh, all right.
Yeah,
but
like
like protective.
And those traditional kind of, I mean, it's always been, fashion has always had those fetish elements just because of because I suppose fashion itself is kind of a fetish, right?
And there's skills as well. You've got to apply them somewhere, haven't you? So.
Do you see? I mean, for the people out there, it's strange, but obviously because you are quite connected with Gosha and what he does.
Yeah.
Do you see any connection?
I don't know if there's. I think I would like to see them meeting. That would be quite interesting. But Gosha is not as much about the precision of the product than about rendering something also about the state of Russia and the mix-up of Russian cultures together. Then after, I think at the end of the day, maybe he's going to hate me if I say that, but the product doesn't care that much. What he likes is the picture he makes of it with that guy in that situation, and that guy that looks like he listens to black metal, but he listens to hip-hop, and he lives in a suburb of Moscow, and he wears this Gossa sweatshirt. I think it's more about that. When those guys at Cottweiler, I think they're more about really making this perfect, super precise overcoat in this technical fabric that is used only somewhere in Japan or something like this, I think somehow it would be fun to make them work together, though.
Be beautiful.
No?
Yeah. So let's look at the clothes. I went to the studio yesterday, and they were talking a lot about materials. So there's like Teflon coated nylons, Lurex mixed walls that they were calling liquid material, and they have quite a strange thing going on with the branding tape. They've actually put the brand, sewn it in, so you can't see it. So it says Cottweiler on it, but you will never see it. It's
So it's inside the garment somewhere, but you don't see it.
That's the principle of luxury, isn't it?
Yeah. So that was quite interesting, and they said all the fabrics are Italian, and then they were talking about the paneling on the jackets and the kind of taking some of the techniques of tailoring and applying them to sportswear. And they said this is a jersey-free show.
Jersey-free?
Well, because I think they felt like they were really humble about the criticism they got. Some of the feedback they got last time, they were actually like, you know what, we took it on board, and we were like, we've decided not to show jersey, even though it's something we do, because we want people to understand the tailoring and the...
Criticism was them being to another sportswear collection, was that?
Yeah.
So bar the cashmere, is it all synthetic then?
Sorry?
Bar the cashmere, is it all synthetic materials?
Well, I think so. I think there's wool though in the black that we can't see yet.
It's a nice touch using the filing cabinets as plinths, podiums.
Yeah, I like them.
Yeah, it's nice.
Well, the idea of the filing cabinet is quite conceptual. So there's the idea that filing is dead, that paper is dead.
Okay.
The compartmentalized thinking, and the whole show is about raw materials and what happens with raw materials and basic boring objects and obsessing over basic boring objects. So the filing cabinet is the basic boring object made from raw material.
It's a nice play on there, and there's also the kind of plinth or the podium as well, you know, so it's good.
He looks a bit like something made to survive the apocalypse also,
Yeah.
I find, you know? Like that outfit that Jack is wearing. I kind of like the silver. It looks like this kind of thing you go close to volcanoes with.
Oh,
you know?
yeah.
It's kind of interesting. What's with the shoes?
Yeah.
They're
They're
the chemical shoes.
All right.
Yeah, Joe Nagosian actually, he sprayed them yesterday.
Okay.
There you go. He came round and stood on slate. I have a really ridiculous knowledge of this.
Yeah, those ones are pretty cool. It looks like survival kits. I kind of like it.
A kind of Gattaca kind of, you know, remember that film?
Yeah,
where
it has that, for sure, yeah.
Oh, and there's also wrap tracksuits. So there's some with zips and then some with like a wrap.
Okay.
They said they were inspired by some African church they found on YouTube.
I had to think of kimonos when I first saw those.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Oh, that's the wrap one, no? That we see on the number 11. Is that wrap? I don't know.
So are they still street casting as well?
A mix. It's Misha Notcut,
Yeah.
casting and styling, and she did the casting for Liam Hodges too. So I think it's a bit of a mix of models and street casting, which is the modern way.
Everybody does that now, no?
Yeah.
I think especially for them it works out quite well, no? You wouldn't want to see that on those like pretty first of the class model boys.
Yeah.
That wouldn't make much sense also.
I think it's funny how it can look at the same time apocalyptic, and on the other hand I get the impression of like looking into a brighter future because of the use of all of the white colours. I think that's an interesting aspect about the collection.
Well, it's funny that we have so much white, because I think maybe we're missing the tunnel element of the show. Because if you look at the press release, there's a second room and there's a tunnel.
What was in the tunnel?
Black.
those petrol.
So what did you
like-
engage with first?
So
Sorry?
What was first, the black or the white?
I think
do you have to go through the tunnel to go through the light?
Yeah, well, the tunnel is room 2 because there's a lot of mining, so all their mood board was all mining images.
Okay.
You know, the coal face.
Yeah, so and I think again this idea of looking at the very basic building blocks of life. So like everything came out of the earth, right, and then you change it into metal or plastic or whatever. And then they were talking to me about they were like, oh yeah, people are.
Oh, here's the black.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Oh yeah, see the liquid
kind
finish.
of like liquid
I like
oil
that.
panels, yeah.
Yeah, it's quite
Yeah,
insane.
yeah, it looks very nice.
And it's very soft to touch. It's not. You could imagine that it would be hard to wear. Or
That looks
something.
pretty luxurious, also. I think this shiny finish.
Yeah. Well, they said, oh, it's a bit evening. I was like, yes, it's definitely very evening.
Evening. Quite actually.
But it's nice because I think they said this is wool. It's definitely Lurex, and they're calling it liquid material. And
Yeah, I think I've seen this kind of things here once.
Can we get a close up on number 9? Is that a bag?
Or is that integrated in the jacket?
Yeah, it's quite detailed, isn't it? When you,
I think it's a bag. I asked about that yesterday.
Yeah.
Okay. It's nice.
But it feels quite a lot like a protective thing. There's a lot of like this padded sweatshirt. It looks a bit padded. It feels a bit like you're gonna like confront the world in that. Yeah.
yeah.
That you're gonna confront the world.
I
It's
love
quite
this
good.
over-dyed sort of baby blue as well.
Yeah, it's very nice.
With the moon boots as well.
But how do you think that will translate in real life? Who is gonna wear that when? I always kind of try to wonder about.
I mean, you see, it's quite.
Like you would wear it every day.
Yeah,
Of
but
course.
yeah. I will wear the bits that I can save up my pocket money for. But like actually, I went to. They had an end of season sale recently, and most people were quite young.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I bet.
You know, it wasn't. I mean, because it's kind of mid-price, so low 200s for a separate,
Okay.
rather than 500, 450. You know.
I can imagine people taking some of the individual items and, that's wearing it with other stuff, more simple stuff. Be quite.
But then with those fluid
straightforward.
ones, I mean, you can see also maybe someone slightly older just buying something very nice for his weekend or for his travel. Or
I can really
comfortable
imagine
clothes.
like if you're about
In the
to
end.
take on a flight for 17 hours, you probably would like to be wearing one of those.
Well, I mean, so many. I
Travel
mean,
wear.
so like with the last collection, this kind of thing, I can see that only a younger person's gonna wear, really, generally, except for me, and but there are so many of their things that are made out of very nice materials. Like they had they've got silk mixes in, and you can totally imagine. It's so minimalist. There's very little branding that
Which is quite luxury somehow, which is luxury.
which is luxury.
Say.
Yeah.
And you can definitely see your kind of, Mr. German architect wearing it,
Yeah,
why not?
totally. Oh yes, it's true.
Yeah.
I mean, 032C actually did launch their lookbook this year, this season.
Oh.
And that's very perfect for
Yeah,
them,
that's a good match for sure.
Yeah. And I think that because that was the thing that I found confusing last time, because yes, it's sportswear, but that doesn't mean, for me, sportswear is always architectural, so for me it feels quite grown up.
Why is that? Sorry? Why?
Why sportswear architectural?
Yeah.
Design-led,
Right.
function-led.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, it's about
Precision.
utility also.
I don't,
no?
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
think it's a contradiction for sportswear to not be something that's grown up. It's always a practical thing, and everyone wants to, makes life easy to dress in practical clothes, and it's not really bound to a particular age group or anything.
Well, and for me, it just goes so well with the idea, like that. I guess it's the gay bachelor dream of the concrete apartment with the beautiful designer chair kind of thing. Why would your clothes be flowery? Your clothes surely, they would go with the.
Would illustrate your kind of interior. as such,
Yeah.
And the rawness of the materials as well, the kind of the purity of, like what they've done here as well, the slate, I guess, as well, and the tar.
I mean, it's quite funny actually. Matt in Cottweiler used to live in my old building, and
Right.
his flat was basically just a purple box.
Purple box.
Purple.
Yeah.
What, like Prince purple, or?
Slightly bluer purple, but like just a space with like maybe one box that the bed was hidden behind. Like a kind of like literally nothing else.
I'm always quite envious of this minimalism. I really can't do it. I need to have like, stuff everywhere.
Yeah, well, you see, I don't know.
And what was the face painting as well? Was that kind of to resemble the kind of the raw materials, or?
I think it's meant to be the mining, the mining dust.
And there's a sickness in it as well.
Yeah, well,
E.T.
This was very strange because yesterday Matt was saying to me, some people just think it's beautiful and other people get it and they get how dirty it is. And I was like, oh shit, I don't get it. I'm not sophisticated enough. But I thought that was interesting that he's got this like second level or first level of he sees filth in this somewhere.
I liked those shoes before. They were quite funny. They look very much like some strange swimming performance shoes. Or this decontamination, something like it. It looks like one of these decontamination.
Yeah.
You go in between.
Well, they're
areas.
obsessed with water. We were talking about this. I said, "Oh, you always have water in your shows," and they were like, "Yeah, we do. We always have water in every show somewhere."
And there's the liquid finish,
Life.
and there's something behind that.
And I like that. What could be more minimalist than water, more technical than water? I mean, you can't make it. You can't manufacture anything without water. Or
You can't live without it.
yeah. You were wearing aqua socks in your show, right?
No.
Aqua socks.
No, I wasn't wearing aqua socks.
No, not you, but I think they had aqua socks in that show. Aqua sock is like just a very slip-on, because laces is like I shouldn't wear laces. It's really very old-fashioned.
Oh, they were
Okay.
moccasins.
Like laces
They were
is
actually.
Okay,
we were
right.
wearing
Oh, you wore
moccasins in the
moccasins,
show.
yeah.
And that one, I think.
Yeah.
I said those weird socks with the fingers and everything.
No, not
Yeah.
with the fingers, but they're not dissimilar. But it's like basically
The same thing.
But so Nike did a shoe recently called the Sock Dart, which is basically an aqua sock with a sole. And an aqua sock is like a sort of like imagine like a diver, what kind of shoe he would wear.
Okay.
And they had one show where they had those. And and it's the kind of like
The press release was saying that they would collaborate with a sound artist as well. Is it?
Holly Herndon.
Yeah, has that come through at all on the? Do you know? Is it, no.
No, but they were talking to me about Holly Herndon, and apparently she's some sort of sound scientist, artist.
Right.
And they said it's not really music that she's made, more a kind of installation. And
So it was saying like they're creating custom instrument that don't exist.
yeah, maybe.
For the I know there was something about
Well,
that.
Pitch. She had the Pitchfork
Yeah.
best song,
Custom
one of their
instrument
best
and
songs of
vocal
2006.
processes.
Oh really? Okay.
She has a PhD in sound science, apparently. There you go. Maybe she'll be the new Twigs. I mean, Twigs did the last show.
So maybe this is very
Yeah,
intellectual
God,
sportswear in the end.
yeah.
It's very intellectual sportswear, I think.
And is that like a bum bag around the neck as well? Is that like a zip on there?
Yes,
I
it
find
is.
intellectual is so hard to apply to clothes. What do you mean exactly by that?
Oh, they just like they just not caring about.
Well, I'm sure they don't care. No, the guy.
I mean, they like to party. That's.
Yeah,
In
but
fact, Matt has a magnetic body. If you can find pictures on my Instagram.
What do you mean?
Well, you can stick things to him.
For real?
Yeah. So it's just like when he gets happy, then he'll show you. So you can actually stick like cans of drink and spoons and things to his body.
Really? That's impressive.
And they,
Like a
they
super,
don't fall
it's like a
off.
I don't know
superhero,
what to
He's
answer
a
to that.
magnetic person.
superhuman.
Magnetic person.
But
So-
yeah, no. So they're not some. I'm sorry, Belgium, but they're not some like Belgian like super intellectual, pained in a cupboard kind of person. They're not that Walter is like that really, but the stereotype.
Oh, you mean the rest of Belgium?
But they have a strong idea as what they want to achieve and the themes for the clothes. And
Yeah, they're deep thinkers as
Yeah.
well as liking great music and liking
Yeah.
nightclubbing, which I think is fun. I mean, intellectual. I don't know. That's a loaded term, isn't it? But
Well, I've met them once. I think they're quite in disguise.
in disguise.
Yes, somehow. Because
How-
when you start, I know the first, visual approach, I was kind of like, oh, who are those guys? And we met really on the corner of a street in Paris we were not supposed to meet, and they were just like hanging out. And then some common friends were like, oh, but it's those guys Daryoush was telling you about. And I was like, oh, and then when they start talking about what they do, they go really, really, really precise, really well, like, and you don't really expect them to start speaking like that,
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like deceiving in a good way, I think, somehow. Like you're expecting something else.
Well,
and
it's
then
like
you
they
get,
take nothing seriously except their art.
yeah, yeah, you can see that.
That's what I was saying. Just being so 100% about it. Really.
Which I think is great. I think so many people get lost in the idea of taking everything seriously except for what they do.
You mean the circus around everything, especially in this world?
so, do you think they've responded to the positively to the critics from the last show?
Well, they were saying they dropped the jersey from the show,
Right.
even though they have jersey in the collection.
Right.
In the drawers.
They just wanted, I think, people to see the quality and the cuts and the
Craft.
craft. Yeah.
To me, it's the most luxurious collection they've ever made. Because it's just so over the top technical, and when you buy a particular garment from that collection, you'll never use it to the fullest. Like there's so much potential in all of these things, but you're never going to get there because you'll just wear them on the streets. You're not going to do sports in them or anything. And then on the other hand, you have those hidden logos as well, which is like, it's just there, it's present, it makes a lot of sense, but you don't really need it actually. It's like having the insoles of your shoes made of python skin.
Yep.
I kind of like that. But I like this hidden thing. It's the last luxury you have, no? Because everything has been so much about showing off and things that look expensive from the outside for the Russians of the world. Sorry, Russia.
Kind of reminds me of
It's just maximum quality really, and it's super futuristic.
There's these little details, but would people know about the label hidden?
That's the point, isn't
The
it?
people would
That
that buy it, they
no
would
one
know.
even knows about
Because
it.
when you know about it and nobody else does,
Yeah,
then that's
that's
your little
luxury.
secret luxury. But when nobody knows about it, what is it then?
I think there's an episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm, which is a bit like that, when the benefactors, whether you name yourself as a benefactor, as a philanthropist, so it's very funny. So, but yeah, it feels very desirable, though, the clothing, I think, and accessible at the same time. And I think I'm leaning towards the black, though. The ribbed tops and the black, very nice.
I
Yeah.
was looking at that as a jacket. There's a
Yeah.
zipped jacket too. What would you be more white, Daryoush? I think you'll go for white, wouldn't you?
Oh, it's very difficult. I mean, I don't know. I mean,
I like this. I like very much this shiny finish, this
Yeah.
liquid fabric.
You
It
can't
looks
even
pretty.
really see it on those photos.
I
actually.
think the baby blue. I mean, nothing looks better than baby blue. You know, politicians, they always wear blue shirts because it makes them look less sweaty.
Oh, really?
Oh, really?
And
Blue
that's
makes you
harmful.
look less sweaty.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it makes it because your skin, you look much more tanned. I mean, it's like blue, in a lot of washing powder that it actually dyes your clothes ever so slightly blue
Oh, right.
because it's more white than white.
Right.
All right.
But I mean, it's so beautiful, that blue. But yeah, I was having a nightmare the other week. I was trying to buy a jumper from DTK, and I was like, should I buy the black? The black looks better, you know, because I got belly. But you know, I feel so old-fashioned with black. You know, I needed the white. I think they were going to murder me.
What's happening on the side of the trousers? Of those baby blue trousers, actually.
Is that a ribbon as well? Yeah. It's almost like it's plastic or some vacuum formed plastic or something.
There's a multi-layered fabric.
It looks like there's probably a lot of things to look inside the garments and discover quite some secrets in there. Of the way it's made. Looks quite thick fabric also.
Well, it's interesting.
It holds itself quite well. Like it's like an armor somehow. I have this feeling of like protection armor, something like this, looking at it.
Well, it's interesting, this weird fine line between like a fashion and some of those more sort of smaller, very technical labels. You know, like you know, I always think of I call them an acronym, but that's not what they're called. The Shadow Project acronym. Yeah, Shadow Project guy. So like Ben has one of those coats, and we were talking about the coat, and you know, and that's really for the technical geek guy, right? Who just, you know, the kind of guy who has a really expensive geeky bike. And
yeah.
And also the clothes are incredibly expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're like 2,000 for
Because of the detailing.
Yeah.
And this kind of sits somewhere between, you know, like it is fashion, but it's also got that kind of, I mean, it doesn't have quite the same performative kind of things that you'd expect from a brand like that, but it's interesting that it sits there, because obviously so much of fashion talk is just about the shape, but actually, but also what I think what's really interesting about them is how you know, their Tumblr, etc. is, you know, it sounds so boring to talk about that now, but like it's such an obvious thing to say, but it's just true. They have this huge following online.
Wait, is it really boring, or is it just? I don't think it got boring. It's just that people starting talking about it.
To talk about.
No, I think just fashion people suddenly starting to talk about Tumblr, no? And
Yeah,
that Tumblr didn't really give a shit. That didn't change much for Tumblr, did it?
Yeah.
And it's
But-
true now. Everybody
I mean,
keeps on saying like, oh, you know,
The general Tumblr aesthetic is just as much the aesthetic of real life, I think.
How do you mean?
I mean, Tumblr is not as particular. It's the taste that people actually have, not just on the internet, but in real life as well. So that's how I think Cottweiler really fits into these times.
Well, I think it's interesting as well when you contrast it with perhaps their footprint in the media is not particularly huge. You know, they haven't got a particularly, you know, the footprint in terms of coverage of a fashion week, you know, the isn't that huge, but their following, sort of cult following online is really big, you know, like kids who are into this are into it all around the world.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess it's rather kids who are into a particular aesthetic as opposed to kids who are into fashion in general, you know. They rather associate with the image that Cottweiler represent.
Yeah, maybe it's not much about fashion. It's true.
Did they talk about at all why they want to present the work in present the clothes in art galleries consistently? I mean, obviously they wanted to do the ICA thing. That was for a reason, because we were working with NTS at the time, and it felt like a natural fit. But it's here at Alison Jake's gallery as well. And I was just wondering if it's the sterile environment that kind of something that attracts them to it, where you can present something. It's a white box, so you present something in a white box, then all of a sudden it takes on its own kind of energy as such, or kind of feels more precise. And I was just wondering whether that's something long term rather than it's a kind of rejection of the kind of traditional fashion.
I've never talked to them about it, but what you've just said makes a lot of sense.
Right.
It does make a lot of sense. I'm sure they've probably thought about it.
Yeah.
one of them lives in a purple box.
The man that lives in a purple box with shoes clothes in a white cube.
Probably
yeah.
makes sense, yes.
Just get his head straight, yeah, clear his head. But no, it works well. I mean, it feels very kind of like, you know, the kind of aesthetics and the presentation as well feels, you know, that it would fit. You could see it in an art gallery, and you could read it as potentially as art as much as fashion, you know, kind of thing. So it's good. It looks strong.
I like to see the pieces in separated because there's quite some layering on some outfits.
Well, they've done shirts as well this season.
Shirts.
And they sort of have this idea. It's quite funny because when they explain it, it's like they can't really. They have this idea of pajamas, but for them, pajamas means very, very glamorous and very, very easy. It's like such a weird contradiction, but it means the same thing. It's very bizarre. Like, yeah.
That's interesting. I'd like to see that pajamas.
Kind of Hugh Hefner style pajamas kind of thing.
No, I don't think so. But yeah. Okay. Well, let's do closing comments. So, Matthew, what are your closing comments?
Oh, well, only my mum calls me Matthew.
Sorry.
It's all right. And then, no, I think generally it looks interesting. It's consistent with what they were trying to do last year. From what I get, you know, it was my first engagement with them as a brand and as a design duo. I think it fits. You know, it looks well styled, and it feels like it has all the parts that they would, or the elements that they're trying to kind of achieve at the ICA. But I think, you know, for me, I'd like to have a closer look at some of the more, you know, the ribbed garments. I totally get it. I'm a little bit too old to be sporting it myself. I don't know, but I think it's, you know, I think it's an interesting collection. It feels timely, and it feels like it's in sync with, you know, kind of conceptual ideas around kind of fashion in the future as such. So yeah, it feels good to me.
Alban?
Yeah, I like this idea of future, and I think I see it as something to confront reality, to confront the future. I have this. It's a good armor to go out. Maybe you slip out of your luxury pajamas and wear one of this armor and go and confront the street, especially in London. It's quite something. No, I like that, and I think maybe it's good that they were accused of being too sportswear, because maybe it's also forcing them to be going even further in what they're doing, even more precise than.
Well, what's quite interesting actually is on when we talked about fetish level, one of the things their fetish is the guy. You know, the guy is not their fetish because they are that. They are that.
Yeah,
guy.
they don't need. Yeah, for sure, they are those people.
You know, like Nazir. You know, they are that people. Like it's not. They're not.
I think it's interesting for people to just Google them up and look at them. You know, it's not like those guys that want to be like them. They are them already.
Yeah. Which I think is a. You know, I mean, maybe Gosher a little bit as well is also like.
Yeah, it's also like that. Yeah.
Whereas so many fashion designers, it's like, ooh, this like fug guy, you know, that they're excited about. Like, exoticism. So sorry, were you finished?
Yes, I think.
Well, thank you very much. And Tim?
I think they've become way more distinctive and unique. Like you can't really. It's quite impossible to compare them to any other label in London right now, because they've really outgrown themselves by being extremely luxurious, while on the other hand being extremely sportswear, even more than before, and also moving away from traditional fabrics. It's just. I think it's incredibly subtle, and then on the other end, insanely luxurious. It's beautiful.
Cool. Thank you very, very, very
also
much.
very versatile.
I'm sorry.
It's an insanely versatile collection as well.
What do you mean by that?
Like they have loads of different shapes throughout.
There's a lot of ideas,
hardly one. Like there's hardly the same shape repeating itself.
Yeah, there's no dictatorial.
They have skinny pants, really loose ones, short ones, butch tops, crop tops, coats. There's everything in there, and yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I mean with versatile. You can just, I guess most people could pick out a piece for themselves, no matter if you really believe in that kind of aesthetic or not.
Alban, sorry, you had something to add?
No, what's thing is, it feels really much like there's not like this dictatorial look, like this is the look of our season, and it's like
less of a uniform.
It's not really, and though it is all about some kind of uniform and protection and utility, but it's not at all.
The uniform is in the aesthetic, less than it is in the actual clothes.
Perfect. All right, thank you very, very, very much, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Cheers.